Please support the bar by subscribe, and sharing my cast. Follow my social media at Facebook, Instagram, Gab, Parler, BitChute, YouTube, DLIVE, Twitch, CLOUTHUB, and Rumble, or join my Subscribe Star. Make a donation by clicking on the links on the description box. I am a listener-supported show, so any of the above is greatly appreciated. Help me grow and spread the truth, since the mainstream media obviously does not want to support truth. All links are listed on the description box. God bless you and enjoy.
Welcome to the Speak Uneasy, a safe space where cancel culture does not exist, because we are in a different prohibition era.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Speak Uneasy with your host, the bartender. So today's random read is going to come off of the book of NAHUM, chapter 3, verses 8 through 15, the righteous judgment. Art thou better than Populus? No, that was situate among the rivers, that had the waters round about it, whose rampart was the sea, and her wall was from the sea. Ethiopia and Egypt were her strength, and it was infinite. Put and Lubim were thy helpers. Yet was she carried away, she went into captivity. Her young children also were dashed in pieces at the top of the streets, and they cast lots of her honorable men, and all her great men were bound in chains. Thou also shalt be drunken, thou shalt be hid, thou also shalt seek strength because of the enemy. All thy strongholds shall be like fig trees, with the first ripe figs. If they be shaken, they shall even fall into the mouth of the eater. Behold, thy people in the midst of thee are women. The gates of thy land shall be set wide open unto thine enemies. The first shall devour thy bars. Draw thee waters for the siege. Fortify thy strongholds. Go into clay, and tread the mortar. Make strong the bricklin. There shall be fire. There shall the fire devour thee. The sword shall cut thee off. It shall eat thee up like the cankworm. Make thyself many as the cankworm. Make thyself many as the locust. Once again, this random read has come off of the book of NAHUM, chapter 3, verses 8 through 15, the righteous judgment. Now, here's my take on this. And this message may have come late, it may have come on time, I don't know. So the last two episodes, and mind you that the last two episodes, they go hand in hand. It was a part 1 and a part 2. I believe it was 31 and 32 that went together. And it was an article that I found, okay, from realrawnews.com, and it was talking about the tribunals of HRC. And mind you, I don't know to the extent of how true that is. Okay, I really don't know. But according to that article, she should have been executed yesterday, the 26th. So this read, it comes in conjunction with what I was talking about the last two episodes. I'm never going to say that I broke it or anything because I'm not a news outlet. I'm just giving you my opinion on articles that I find. So I just thought that this was an interesting random pick for the day after the last two episodes, not the one I just did yesterday, but the last two that I did, 31 and 32, which talked, like I said, which talked about HRC's military tribunal. I believe Podesta is going to be next, and Huma Abedin is going to be next. According to the article, of course, I have no sauce in any of this news. I don't know how true this is, but I am really hoping that justice will finally be served. I am not, look, it is not Christian-like to think, to wish people, to wish death upon people, but justice needs to be served when justice is due. And all I am saying is that after all the stuff they have done, they need to face their punishment. They need to be served justice. Now, if that means put them to death, then that's the judgment that was given upon them to whoever's judging them. And after that, God will be the one to determine where they, He's going to do more justice to their soul. So it's a double whammy for them because they have to face justice in this world and justice in the next. But I think that this random read is synonymous about the articles that I was reading. I'm going to believe that it is true, because I wouldn't have picked something like this randomly. Like I said, I always ask God to give me a message. Give me a message that I may understand. Give the people out there a message that they may understand. And I am a firm believer of God directing us in directions to do things for things to actually happen. I think everything is predestined. Whether you go left or right, whatever direction you go in, it's already been predestined either way. So that's my random read for the day. I found it pretty freaking mind-blowing, to be honest. Especially after the last article read that she was supposed to be hung yesterday, the 26th. So I don't know. I don't know if it happened. I don't know if it's true. But do I believe? I want to believe. I want to believe that justice has finally been served. So being that we're doing this again in the morning, and this is a two-parter again today because we're talking about the birth of Jesus, which was stated that it was on the day of Trumpets. The bar is not open for any alcohol this morning. I drink, but I drink only at night, maybe sometimes during the late afternoon. So this morning I have with me some coffee. And the coffee that I have today is from Bones Coffee Company. I'm not sure what flavor was put in the pot this morning. This cup of coffee was just handed to me by my lovely wife. It was nice of her because I was doing some work here on my desk, and she came with a cup of coffee. And I don't know what this one is, but it was very nice of her to bring me some coffee on top of all the BS I put her through. So I do know it's a Bones coffee because it's a flavored coffee. You guys should check them out. They have really good flavored coffees. My favorite one so far that I've tried would be which is kind of funny because this linked back to the first part of this podcast, because it's a two-parter. It was a White Russian flavored coffee. That's one of my favorite. That's my favorite flavor from Bones Coffee Company. You might want to check those guys out. So here's to Bones Coffee Company. Thank you, guys. And now, part 2 of the birth of Christ. So we're going to continue the article. And title reads, The Significance of Being Born on New Year's Day. The Day of Trumpets in the biblical and Jewish calendars in New Year's Day for commercial and royal reckonings, just as we have January the 1st on our Roman calendar as the start of our new year. This New Year's Day signified a time of new beginnings to all those in Israel who accepted the teachings of the Bible. As a matter of fact, the Jews over the centuries have held to the belief that the Day of Trumpets was a cardinal date in the history of Adam, our first parent. It was the very day when Adam and Eve came to the recognition of whether to obey God or to defy Him. Well, we know how that went, right? See the complete art scroll, Machzor, page, 16? Roman numeral XVI, 16. But that was not all that occurred on that day. No day in the year could be reckoned as being of more esteemed value and symbolic influence than Rosh Hashanah. The day is important for the birth of the Messiah in several ways that are very profound in Jewish symbolism. The book, The Complete Art Scroll, Machzor, gives some chronological details that the early Jewish theologians and scholars worked out from indications in the Old Testament to show when important individuals were born or major events happened in association with their lives, and what an array of significant things occurred on the Day of the Trumpets and the month of Tishri. The book gives summary of accounts found in the Jewish Talmud, Rosh Hashanah, 10b to 11a. Note what the Machzor states about this particular Day of Trumpets. The quotes are interesting and of value. The patriarchs Abraham and Jacob were born on Rosh Hashanah. Abraham was a new beginning for mankind after mankind's failure to realize the promise of Adam and Noah. Jacob was a new beginning for the Jewish people, for it was with him that Jews advanced from the status of individuals to that of a united family on the threshold of nationhood. Art Scroll, Machzor, page 16, italics and bracketed word mine. The Machzor does not stop with Abraham and Jacob. Look at the following quote. On Rosh Hashanah, God remembered 3 barren women, the matriarchs Sarah and Rachel, and Hannah, the mother of the prophet Samuel, and decreed that they would give birth. Not only was Rosh Hashanah a turning point in the lives of these great and worthy women, but the births of their children were momentous events for all Jewry, because they were the historic figures Isaac, Joseph, and Samuel. Ibid italics mine. If the Jewish people would realize that the New Testament in the book of Revelation, chapter 12, verses 1 through 5, also places the birth of Jesus on the very same day of the trumpets. They might begin to understand just how important Jesus is in a Jewish sense, as well as to the world. The New Testament states that he is the Messiah. He shares many similarities with the births of Abraham, Jacob, Isaac, Joseph, and Samuel. People should begin to realize the significant coincidences of the birthdays of these prominent men as understood by the Jewish people. And standing out above them all is the teaching of the Apostle John that Rosh Hashanah is also the birthday of Jesus. Interesting. More significance of the Day of Trumpets. Jewish chronological evaluations show other important events associated with the Day of Trumpets, Rosh Hashanah. The Magzor continues. On Rosh Hashanah, Joseph was freed from an Egyptian prison after 12 years of incarceration. He became viceroy of Egypt, provider to the world during the years of famine, and the leaders of Jacob's family. God's plan called for Joseph to set in motion the years of exile and enslavement that were the necessary preparation for Israel's freedom, nationhood, and emergence in a blaze of miracles to accept the Torah and march to the land of Israel. Ibid. This shows Rosh Hashanah as a day of freedom. There is more on the theme of freedom. The Magzor continues. On Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish people in Egypt stopped their slave labor. They began their time of liberty and freedom. While they waited for the 10 plagues to play themselves out so that Moses could lead them to freedom. Ibid. Words in brackets, mine. The final festival of Israel. As I stated, this day at the beginning of the month of Tishri was the day when the 7th trump, or the last trump, was sounded to introduce the final month when the festivals of God ordained at the time of Moses would be held. This last trump is mentioned by the Apostle Paul as heralding the events associated with the second advent of Christ back to this earth. First Book of Corinthians, chapter 15, verses 52, and First Book of Thessalonians, chapter 4, verses 16 through 17. This last or final trump is also mentioned by the Apostle John in Revelation, chapter 11, verses 15, as the warning sound that the kingdom of God will soon be coming to earth. Okay, I had to pause there because I had this weird feeling. Not weird feeling, but like Holy Spirit feeling, okay? Bear with me. Just bear with me. Okay. As soon after the 7 angels of the book of Revelation will bring on the 7 last plagues, in the same fashion as the Jewish analyzers of chronology saw that from the day of Rosh Hashanah, the 10 plagues were sent forth on Egypt in the time of Moses. What is certain is the fact that the book of Revelation, with its teaching that Jesus was born on the day of the trumpets, is giving us in a symbolic way the time for the nativity of Jesus, whom Christians considered to be the King of the world. He was prophesied to lead all people into a time of freedom and profound peace. This is the central reason why the Apostle John in Revelation chapter 12 verses 1 through 5 shows the birth of Jesus occurred within the first few minutes, the twilight period of the Day of Trumpets that works out to be September 11th in 3 BCE. Tishri 1, the Feast of Trumpets. This occurs on Tishri 1 in the fall, September through October. On this day, the high priest blows the ram's horn, announcing the beginning of the new year. Jewish tradition gives this day a fourfold meaning. New Year's Day, number 1, New Year's Day, number 2, the Day of Remembrance, number 3, the Day of Judgment, number 4, the Day of Blowing the Shofar. On this day, Isaiah 60 to 61 is read in the synagogues to teach the lesson that eventually the Lord will be revealed as king and be accepted as the ruler of the world. Isn't it amazing that Jesus read from section of scripture in the synagogue at Nazareth for his first sermon as he described his ministry? Luke chapter 4, verses 16 through 25 in the NIV. He went to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and on the Sabbath day he went into the synagogues, as was his custom. He stood up to read. And the scroll of the prophets Isaiah was handed to him. Unrolling it, he found the place where it is written, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." Then he rolled up the scroll, gave it back to the attendant, and sat down. The eyes of everyone in the synagogue were fastened on him. He began by saying to them, "Today this scripture is fulfilled in your hearing." On September 11th, 3 BC, Jesus Christ, God's only begotten Son, was born in Bethlehem. Unknown to the people, the trumpet sound which blew from morning to evening in Jerusalem heralded the birth of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. What a glorious day in the redemption of mankind, for unto the world a Savior was born. The Magi, or wise men, did not come to see Jesus until he was about 1.5 years old, as they begin to track 6 astronomical events in Leo that captured their attention. These events are as follows. Number 1, Jupiter and Venus in conjunction in Leo, August 12, 3 BC. Number 2, Jupiter and Regulus in conjunction in Leo, September 14th, 3 BC. Number 3, Jupiter and Regulus in conjunction in Leo, February 17th, 2 BC. Number 4, Jupiter and Regulus in conjunction in Leo, May 8, 2 BC. Number 5, Jupiter and Venus in conjunction with Leo, June 17, 2 BC. Number 6, massing of planets Jupiter, Mars, Mercury, and Venus in Leo with Jupiter and Mars in conjunction, August 27th, 3 BC. The final conjunction in Leo with its massing of planets convinced the Magi that a king had been born in Judea. They began to journey to find the king of the Judeans shortly after this last event. The Bible makes one breathless in its accuracy and integrity. Oh boy, what an article. What an article. Okay, so the reason why I had to stop, because it just occurred to me. Something occurred to me. And mind you that this is always in parables. So it can have multiple meanings, right? First off, let me go back here. So this article, let me give you guys a date on when this article was written again. This article was written on December 22nd of 2011. 2011, the year 2011, okay? And now they're stating that Jesus was born on the day of trumpets. Right? Whew. Look, I know that we're living in biblical times. I know we are. I mean, it's apparent. because of everything that we see. Everything good has been turned bad. Everything bad has been turned good. And that's how the devil works. He inverts everything in order for it to be perceived to the people, right? But us as Christ followers, we have the discernment to see what's going on here. And this is just me thinking out loud. Could number 45 not I wouldn't say that necessarily he's Jesus, but I'm saying, could he be the last trumpet? I'm just thinking out loud here. There is no coincidence on his name. There is just no coincidence with his name. He has to look. When John F. Kennedy tried to do the right thing, what happened to him? Right? The last one we had, DJT, he's being protected. And he's got to be protected by something beyond human. He has to. Unless he's a part of this whole thing to set a stage to enact everything that's going on. And maybe this is because I'm not a heavy Q follower. I really am. When it first came out, yes, I was. But as time progressed, I was like, yeah, things are not happening. So maybe I should use a little bit more discernment about Q. And look, no offense to those who are diehard Q fans and decoders. It's hard for me to learn the comms. It really is. It's difficult. It's too much thinking for me. You got to remember, I only have a limited, my mind can only take so much schooling or learning. So when it comes to having patience to learn, connecting all these things together, man, my mind just can't work that way. I'm a very simple person. Not to mention the fact that I was a horrible high school student. I don't even know how I got through, to be honest. I mean, I know how I got through, but I don't know. I don't know how I was able to get through. Oh man, I mean, if you guys understand double talk, you know what I'm talking about, okay? Sometimes it requires a little double talk. But I find it very interesting that this particular article was written back on 2011. And number 45's last name is Trump, right? Dude has to be protected like big time. And I thought, when he first came, not first came, but as he was doing his presidency and towards the middle of his presidency, I was totally convinced that God has sent Trump as sort of like a King David to us patriots, right? Because he was trying to change all sorts of things to make it better for us. I was convinced, and I still am convinced that he has been sent by God as, I think, like a King David kind of person. But to read this and to kind of connect the dot, like my mind connecting things, this tells me a lot. And I'm excited. Because I think this is just a feeling. This has nothing to do with I have sauce on this. Because I know a lot of people like to say, "Oh, you need to have sauce." Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, no, I can say what I think. What I'm thinking. It's okay to think out loud. as far as I know, I mean, we haven't completely lost the First Amendment. I mean, we've lost the First Amendment, sort of, but it's still okay for us to think out loud, right? To say what we think. See, now after saying all that, I kind of lost my train of thought there and what I was gonna say. Oh, now I remember. Jeez, it sucks getting old. I think I better slow down on the cocktails when I do this show too, and not to mention look, people. This is a little off topic, but my sleeping pattern is bad. I've been working midnights for close to 15. No, I would even say more than 15 years, to be honest. I've been working midnights for such a long time that my sleeping pattern has been all screwed up. And my biological clock is always waking me up at certain times, even on my weeks off. I would sleep late and wake up within a few hours, and I know that's not healthy because we need at least 8 hours of sleep, especially me. Jeez, man, it just sucks tonight. Like I say to myself, why can't my body do the same things it used to when I was in my 20s? But anyways, that's like completely off left field. What I'm trying to say here, though, continuing on to this topic, is that I honestly think that we're gonna see Jesus come back for the second time. I'm convinced that it's going to happen in my lifetime. In this lifetime. It's so, I mean, the evil is so apparent out there in the world. It's so apparent. It's so obvious. It's so obvious that so many people are so lost. Like this is such a telling time. And if people can't see, if they can't see, then they're choosing not to see, or they don't care. And those are the people that are, whether they're good or bad, they're going to be left behind. They're going to be left behind. I don't want to be left behind. I want my name in that book of life. And I've discussed the book of life before. The 144,000. That's not much people considering the whole world. That really is not a lot of people. You want to talk about making a sport team in high school being cut? Man, you better do your best at this tryout, because right now we're living in a tryout to make that team. I'm not perfect. I recognize that, and I try every day. I try every day to walk in the path of Jesus. I do. And I'm never even gonna have a toenail into how he's walked his life. Because I have so much imperfections. And we all do. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the way we were born. But you don't say to yourself, well, there's no hope because we're human and we're born with imperfections. No, that doesn't mean you don't try. You got to try. It's a constant battle every day. Every day is a battle. I still walk in a path where temptation hits me, and sometimes temptation wins. It's as simple as just walking past a nice-looking woman and giving her a stare because I don't know, because I'm a guy. But I know that that's a wrong thing to do because the way I'm looking at her. But man, that is a struggle for me. That is a struggle for me. And I have to stop that. But, what can I say? I'm one of the last few testosterone-filled males out there. Well, at least in my age, I'm running on fumes when it comes to testosterone, only because they say that the level starts to go down as you get older. So I guess, I don't know, maybe I'm at quarter tank. I don't know, half tank. So this was a very, very interesting article, and I'm glad that I found it. And it makes a lot of sense to me as to why the cabal or the Illuminati or whatever you want to call these creepos, it's apparent to me why they use 9/11 as a day of desecrating that day. It makes so much sense to me because they're trying to cover up the true meaning of that day. They're hiding it by putting unfortunate things happening on that day. It makes so much sense to me. So, I'm going to take a break. And we're going to talk about, an article maybe. Or maybe we could just kick it and have a discussion. I mean, I'm not getting anything bounced back to me, but I'll be thinking out loud. How about that? How about that? I'd be sharing thoughts, huh? So I'll see you guys, or I won't see you guys. I will be back. I will be back to talk to you after the break. And we're back from the break. So during the break, I was trying to look for an article to talk about. And I bumped into this one from thefederalist.com. And when I saw the headline, it absolutely blew my mind. Because I live here in Texas, and this article pertains to a school district in Texas, although it does not directly affect me, because I do have a child that's still in elementary school. She has been attending, she's homeschooled. She's been attending this school called Freedom Project Academy, and man, do I highly recommend. I really highly recommend that program to parents who are considering, having their kids study at home. This school is phenomenal. I've had my oldest son, or rather, I only have one son. I've had my oldest go through a conventional public school system in California. And the comparison with both, my daughter is picking up things real quick. She's learning things that my son did not learn in elementary. Not to mention the fact that they stand up and do the Pledge of Allegiance, very patriotic, Christian Judeo values. They learn about God. I highly recommend that you guys go check out Freedom Project Academy. I have yet to be disappointed by their program. Their program is phenomenal. And I just recently found out that they got banned from YouTube. So that says a lot about what they're about. So anyways, let's get back to this article here. This one is from The Federalist, and it was written today, April 27th of this year, by Joy Pullman. And the article reads, "Parents revolt after Texas's #1 school district tries to institutionalize racism. Parents of kids attending Texas's top-performing school district found out what their schools have been teaching in the name of racial justice, and they are livid, as they should be. What the hell is going on? What happened to the last bastion of freedom here in this country? I thought Texas was the beacon." Anyways, let's get to this article. A suburb of Dallas, Texas, has exploded into national media coverage and arrests of school board members after parents found out what their schools have been teaching in the name of, quote, racial justice. They're fighting back with lawsuits and challengers for 2 school board seats in an election that finishes May 1st. Carroll Independent School District of South Lake is the top achieving school district in Texas. It has no racial achievement gaps, which is nearly unheard of. That's because South Lake attracts high-achieving families of all races. Man, I gotta pause for a minute because I had this discussion with my wife yesterday about race. And, I'll talk about it after I read this article because it gets to me. It really does. The local median income is more than 4 times the national average and poverty there is statistically non-existent. According to district data, microaggressions, bullying, and racially charged incidents happen approximately 3 times per month in the district of 8,500 students, meaning they involve 0.3% of students a year. Yet beginning in 2018, the district rushed into an eye-opening cultural competence plan after 2 videos of students singing the N-word along with rappers went viral on social media. Media outlets went nuts on the story, and so did local school board meetings, where sometimes crying taxpayers, parents, and students spent hours insisting their lives have been forever damaged by the kind of, quote, institutional racism in South Lake illustrated by the rap sing-alongs. Like I said, I'll discuss this after I read this because, they weren't complaining that rappers stud songs with racial slurs or that parents let their kids listen to such music. They were complaining about things like teasing and graffiti. They demanded the school district end such annoyances and even treat them like crimes or be convicted in the court of public opinion of enabling, quote again, institutional racism. Is everyone to blame for what a few racists do? Retired Dallas Cowboy player Russell Maryland and Robin Cornish, the widow of another cowboy, who both have kids in the district, use national media appearances to pressure the town to enact a gosh, man, I really hate these words, quote, Cultural Competence Action Plan, or CCAP, a long-form article from NBC News in January that quotes Cornish accuses the town of harboring racists. Cornish also told the Fort Worth Star-Telegram in February 2019 the school district was, quote, sweeping this under the carpet and they are complicit. Unfortunately, this is the way our country is right now. South Lake is a microcosm of that. We have someone running the country right now who says it's okay to be racist. What the The idea that American is fundamentally flawed because some people have a racist problem in their mind, that's a recipe to keep you in poverty and unhappiness for the rest of your life, said Juan Saldivar, a father of a South Lake student, to explain his opposition to restructuring South Lake schools around, gosh, these words, systemic racism. My parents always told me it doesn't matter whether people like you. It matters whether the law protects you, and it does. He said most parents who oppose the district's rush into racial extremism, extremism, over the past 3 years, don't walk and talk the media outlets because their perspective is depicted as racist. Dude, that R word is just being thrown out there like nothing now. Even though their true goals are combating racism and ensuring equal treatment and continued academic excellence for all Carroll students. A local parent group organized to oppose CCAP, South Lake Families PAC, makes that clear throughout their website and other materials. Through the district spokesman, school board members and Carroll administrators refused any comment on the story. Of course they do. Even through their lawyers. The spokesman cited ongoing litigation that has paused CCAP and led to 2 school board members posting bail after indicted in a lawsuit alleging they conducted meetings about CCAP in secret in violation of state law. A look at what numerous district employees and contractors were using public resources to teach suggests some other reasons they're declining comment. Here's sampling of what Carroll ISD has been doing in the name of, quote, cultural competency and, quote, combating racism. It's evidence of the district seeking to push extremist views on kids. A completely different story than CCAP, proponents claim, and corporate media have been reported in the past 3 years. Racial competence means shaming white people, right? During a 2019 retreat, Carroll administrators were given a preview of the kind of instruction they would be expected to oversee and carry out under a, quote, cultural competency regime. In slides presented at that retreat, teachers and administrators who choose to treat students, parents, and colleagues equally regardless of their skin color or ethnicity were accused of, quote, cultural blindness, a state in which differences were ignored and one proceeds as if differences don't exist. This slide claimed white privilege is being able to navigate daily life in the American culture without having to think about race. The administrators were encouraged to construct a, quote, white identity, discussing what does it mean for you to be white? Dude, what? This is giving me a headache just reading this article. And whiteness, as well as naming some characteristics of white culture. While being encouraged to think of themselves in terms of race, however, administrators were also told that being white is a bad thing. It includes white fragility, a state in which even minimal amount of racial stress becomes intolerable, triggering a race of defensive moves, anger, fear, guilt, silence, etc., etc. Ironically, the presentation also warns against stereotyping, in quotes, which it says, quotes, happens when you generalize about a person while ignoring the presence of individual differences. This is how bad it has to be. This is how bad it has to get before most white people notice burning crosses, swastikas, KKK, the N-word. Carroll administrators were told in the presentation. Dude, there's like slides of this thing that I guess they were showing the students as well. Everything could be racist, even eye contact. Oh, gosh. Oh, man. Do I have to continue with this article, man? Because it's thumping my brain right now. On August 10, 2020, Assistant Principal Renee James gave a presentation to Carroll High School teachers focused on race. It directed them to think about their teaching through the lens of equity, which means racializing every possible interaction, where students sit, who raises his hand and doesn't, which students take advanced classes, and so forth in extreme detail. The presentation included this video from a California nonprofit group about, oh gosh, the R word in schools. An unnamed young black woman in the video claims black and brown students need extra resources because they have to work extra hard and do like double the work just to succeed. James' presentation also links to an equity rubric. What the or things teachers should change about their professional practices that include the teacher is aware of their sick biases and privileges. The teacher utilizes identity affirming strategies, and the school's core policies and practices indicate a prioritization of equity. Teachers were instructed to document evidence of progress on metrics like this. James' presentation also links to a resource for Equitable Classroom Practices 2010, a 40-page document that includes detailed instructions for greeting students, calling on them in class, and classroom decorations, all with an eye to race. It implies that behaviors such as mispronouncing a student's name, making both too much or too little eye contact, or not equally distributing how a teacher walks around the classroom is gosh, man. The document also demands that teachers who don't want to be considered racist use body language, gestures, and expressions to convey a message that all students' questions and opinions are important and include non-English words in classroom material. Equality is actually oh my gosh, man. I can't go on. I'm sorry. I can't go on with this. I can't. This has got to be the first time I stop mid-article and just say I can't read anymore, because it's mind-throbbing. It's mind-throbbing. This whole race issue has been perpetuated to separate all of us by those in power. And this is my opinion, okay? Because I'm stopping this article. It's upsetting me. It's upsetting me because, look, I grew up not caring about the color of people's skin, okay? I've always judged people by how they treated me and what kind of character they had. That's all I cared about. And mind you, when I was younger, I grew up when hip hop was a very popular thing. It was the whole hip hop culture, which is mostly black. I grew up in that kind of culture. This whole race thing has been perpetuated to separate all of us. In God's eyes, we are all the same. We are all His children. It doesn't matter. There are many differences about myself that I can complain about and call somebody, I don't know, racist because what? I'm shorter, because I'm fatter, because I'm Asian. There are many things about me that are flawed. Physically, right? Physically, there's physical flaws with everybody, I guess. I don't know. Whoever's perception, I guess. But for me, I wish I was taller. Kind of like Skilo. He thought he wished he was a little bit taller. I wish I was a little bit taller. But we have what we have. And there's only so much we can do to change how we look. And now they want to blame white people for being racist. Well, white people didn't have a choice to become white. Here's my theory. This is just me thinking, okay? Because I had this discussion with my wife yesterday. We're both Asian, but we're both of different Asiatic countries. Okay? I don't think that I think, yes, there was a point in time that race was a problem. Yes. Now, if you want to talk about the slave times, the slave trade times, you better go way back into time, way before that, because slavery has been always about class, not about race. It was always the stronger tribe taking over the weaker tribe. Okay? The Egyptians used the Israelites to build what they had in, well, I mean, as far as we know, they used the Israelites as slaves. It's always been about class, not about race. It just so happens that maybe you were darker skinned. I don't know. And as far as the slave trade goes, I don't think a bunch of white people came over to Africa and nabbed a bunch of black people. I've learned that Africans sold Africans. That's why it was called a slave trade. It was always about class. It was always about a class of people. And it still is. But they're mushing racism into the mix to keep us divided. I am so hurtful every time that race has to be an issue. It makes me think that, dude, your mind cannot think beyond this. And what pisses me off even more is the victim mentality of this. Like, how are you going to move forward with your life if you always think that, quote, the man is bringing you down? Look, I'm an Asian male. Okay? I'm flat out. I'm an Asian male. I've never used my race for anything. Never. I've never made that an excuse because I couldn't do something. I've never. Well, there has been a few times where I made joking comments about myself because of my race that I'm not well endowed. But, you know, it was just all in jokes because, look, I'm comfortable with myself. You know, I wish I was well endowed, but that's not genetically feasible because I'm Asian. But and I'm sorry if you guys feel grossed out about that. I just thought I'd throw that joke in there because, you know, I have to laugh because this whole race thing has been perpetuated for so long from the people who hold these positions of so-called controlling the world right now. It's on purpose. They want us to take each other out. So, well, there are so many things that I also want to say, but I don't want to, take too much of your time. And I'm just going to be rambling, and nobody wants to hear negativity here. But I just did want to give my thoughts on this because I honestly think that they're using the word race, but in actuality, it's a class of people that are they're using that. They're hiding it, It's always been about class. And then when people say when the Europeans came over to this country, well, I'll tell you what, man. These Indian tribes were killing each other first. They were killing each other already. They were ruling each other. They were trying to take each other's lands here. So that's just the way the world used to work. There were no freaking rules back then. It was killed or be killed. Only the strong survived. That's how it was. We just, excuse me, we just happen to evolve. We just happen to start thinking rationally and make things work in a peaceful manner. So I don't know. That's all I got. In a common sense way of saying things, that's what I think. But I don't know. Common sense seems to be a very special skill to have nowadays, because I guess the brainwashing of kids have taken away common sense thinking, and Common Core has really effed up kids. They can't think. There's no more critical thinking. They have completely confused children. They've completely confused them with this whole stupid race thing, the sexualization of children, making them choose whatever they feel like being. Dude, have you looked in a mirror? Like, you cannot change what you are. There is an extent to what you can do. I mean, plastic surgery, but I wouldn't do that. I don't want to look like a permanent, look like somebody's pulling my skin backwards. I don't want to look like that. But anyways, that's all I got for today. No, let me change that. That's all I can put up with for today. So, like I say at the end of every show, damn, what a show. With that being said,
the bar is now closed.
I can't help but wonder if I'm under a spell. It's more than a passing notion. I've never fallen with such devotion. I can't help but wonder if it's only a dream. Am I naive or can I believe that things are really as they seem? Can anyone explain how to understand what's true? I know I just can't tame it. Whenever I'm with you, I can't help but wonder if you wonder about me. 'Cause lately I can't help but wonder how wonderful this might be. understand what's true. I know I just can't take it. Whenever I'm with you, I can't help but wonder if you wonder about me. 'Cause lately I can't help but wonder how wonderful this might be. 'Cause lately I can't help but wonder how wonderful this might